Thank you very much. Well, good afternoon. It's the end of the day, and the crowd is thinned a little bit, but I think this will be a good presentation. Today I'm going to talk about Asterisk 11, which is the next version of Asterisk that will be released. We're targeting release coming up in another couple of weeks, sometime right after Astricon, which is the annual Asterisk Users Conference. That's coming up, I believe, from the 23rd through the 25th of October in Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States. So at this point, we're just kind of letting everybody know what they can expect. To go through this, I'm actually going to start out by talking a little bit about Asterisk itself, because there may be people here who are using Elastics, but who are not tremendously familiar with Asterisk. So a little bit of background is probably important. So Asterisk is the communications engine which actually underlies Elastics and a lot of other communication systems. It's also an open source project. We have about 2 million, a little more than 2 million downloads every year that we know about. As David mentioned, we only have visibility into a limited portion of the downloads of Asterisk. There's actually distributions of Linux out there that include their own package set. And there's probably tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, more Asterisk systems that come right out of CentOS or Ubuntu or Debian or what have you. Over 1 million production deployments based on some estimates that we've run. 85,000 plus registered community members. So we've got a pretty good list of people who are participating in the ongoing development of Asterisk. It's been going on since 1999, so this is our 13th year. What Asterisk does is effectively provide the plumbing layer for building communication solutions. So things that are really difficult, things like building a protocol implementation for SIP or for ISDN PRI, things like that get baked into Asterisk as modules. Asterisk also handles media I/O. So a lot of people will refer to Asterisk as a media server because it gets used that way frequently when put in conjunction with, for example, a SIP proxy. So it handles things like recording, playback, and conferencing, media mixing, that sort of thing. Media management is the overall ability to put all these things together and actually control it. So not just record and play, but actually dictate how that gets structured, written to disk, propagated to other systems. Session management, so all of the signaling layer componentry gets built into Asterisk, and it's not simply SIP, and it's not simply ISDN, it's really the mix of all kinds of different things, all of which have been abstracted to the point where it's accessible to almost any developer. So anybody who's familiar with Linux and basic script programming should be able to sit down with Asterisk and actually create an application. Applications, by the way, are something that are sort of also baked into Asterisk. Things that frequently come up, building call routing solutions. Within Elastics, you have a dial plan, and underneath Elastic's dial plan is the Asterisk dial plan itself, which is actually the core layer which handles a lot of the routing. We've got voicemail, conference bridging, queues, automated attendant, directory, all of these services that normally would have to be built from the ground up or are built in a fixed form way by proprietary phone system vendors are at your disposal. So you can create your own solution that mixes these services together in just exactly the right combination to achieve the ends that you need. Now, as Elastics users, you're probably familiar with Asterisk being the thing under the hood, the thing that generates certain log files, the thing that generates certain errors, etc. But it does that for not just Elastics, but a lot of other applications. So as an application unto itself, Asterisk can be handcrafted into one-off implementations. You're able to take it and build it into something that serves a particular fixed purpose. So you would take Asterisk, install it on a Linux box, and then you'd come at it with the dial plan script programming language and the configuration files, and you would cobble it or build it or configure it into what you need it to be. And that can include PBXs, VoIP gateways, call center solutions of all variety. A lot of people use it also as a glue toolkit. So it'll become the engine, and you actually program it externally. There's a number of different programming interfaces that come with it. The AGI, or Asterisk Gateway interface, is one that's frequently used to program it using some primitives that have been included, and you can write to it from just about any programming language. The Asterisk Management Interface, or AMI, frequently just called the manager, is the command and control or third-party interface that has complete visibility from sort of above the overall Asterisk system and is able to manage the activity on any channel running within the system. Many people frequently wrap Asterisk up in order to manage it. So rather than approaching it directly and coding directly to these interfaces, they'll use an intermediary layer. Adhesion is one, Asterisk Java is another. And with these, they tend to build custom applications and solutions. So you'll see people who are building not just a stock PBX, but they're also out there solving particular problems for call centers, particular problems for other industries that need communications broken down in a little bit different way, or perhaps more deeply integrated with existing technologies that they're using in their business. Communications products are another thing that frequently comes out. I mean, I've seen a number of things out here on the floor where people have taken Asterisk and they've used that as the core of a hardware product or a software product. So my company, Digium, creates a software solution called SwitchVox, and we actually deliver that basically as a turnkey hardware box in most cases. But I also saw similar products from, of course, Elastix. The Palo Santo guys were walking around with the nice little orange appliance, same idea there. And I know that several other vendors have those. So it's commonly used to build communications products. So a little bit about Elastix and Asterisk. Asterisk is the engine that's underneath the covers. You don't necessarily interact directly with it, but it takes care of all of the VoIP connectivity and all the PSTN connectivity. It takes care of the call management functions, so routing, call setup, call teardown, call redirection or transfer. So all of the basic applications that are, or many of the basic applications that are found in Elastix are overlaid on top of Asterisk. So they've taken the mail package, or the voicemail package that's part of the stock Asterisk, and they've extended that in. They've taken the queuing engine and they've built a wrapper around that from the GUI so that it's very easy to manage. Elastix handles all of the business logic, whereas Asterisk is handling the technology components. So call flow and call treatment live within the purview of Elastix. End user features, the almost enormous list of modules that you have that add on to it, are all things that are built at the business logic level. And then of course the intuitive administrative interface, because if you look at Asterisk, Asterisk is an engine. You don't drive the engine, you drive the whole car, and the engine is controlled by an overlay of things like steering wheels and linkages and tires, etc. So, and of course additional UC modalities, things like instant messaging, email, calendar, etc., are all layered on top through the Elastix system. So the Asterisk basically comes out about once a year. We do a major release. And then throughout the year we do a number of what we call point releases. So I've told you what Asterisk is in a general sense, and now I'm going to tell you a little bit about the recent history for those of you who have been watching. This will probably be a little bit of review, but quickly going through. Asterisk 1.8 LTS. That was released 2 years ago almost at Astricon, so Astricon 2010. It is a long-term support release, which means that there's 5 full years of mainline support for it, meaning we will fix bugs, we will provide direct support for it, and then there's 1 additional year of security fix-only support that comes with it. So we did this because people wanted to know, what version of Asterisk should I use to build my solution? And we wanted to be able to give them a definitive answer. Go use the version that's going to live for a long time. So things that were added in 1.8, secure calling, so SIP, TLS, and SRTP. IPv6 support for SIP came in. Calendaring, XMPP device state. So you're actually able to share device state, information about the state of a particular extension between different Asterisk instances using the Jabber protocol, XMPP. Channel event logging, which is very highly detailed or fine-grained logs that show what's happened. So if you need to actually be able to go back through for diagnostic purposes or for tuning and tweaking purposes, or just because you prefer a system that actually keeps very detailed records, Cell or channel event logging provides that. Google Voice, Chat, and Talk calling is something that made its way in Asterisk 1.8. Now, since then, we found out that Google was a bit of a moving target, so I'll come up with something that's a little bit more clever towards the end of the presentation that readdresses that particular point. Then we also added in a bunch of ISDN standard features, things that if you're used to using BRI phones on the desk from your telco, were optional features that you could get there. Advice of charge, call completion supplementary services, which is effectively a network-offered version of CAMP-on, and calling party identification, or basically caller ID on steroids, the ability to update caller ID as a call is transferred around within an enterprise. All of those features, by the way, are not just in ISDN, they're also made available across SIP. So we've got a fairly good list of things that came in with 1.8. And then 1.8 became LTS, so it's going to stay frozen and available as it was released for a total of 6 years. So Asterisk 10, of course, came out last year at Astricon, or actually a little bit after Astricon. It is a standard release. It gets a 1-year lifespan instead of a 5-year lifespan. So let me give you a little bit of a background on why we do that. People want stability out of Asterisk. That's very important to everybody who uses Asterisk. People also want new features out of Asterisk, and that's very important to people who use Asterisk. And trying to put those two things together in any one release is very, very dangerous, because in order to make something stable, you can't be introducing lots and lots of changes, lots of new elements to the code. So what we've decided to do is every other year alternate back and forth between a long-term support release, which has very little in the way of new feature functionality, but is designed to be an absolutely stable, absolutely reliable solution on which you can build products. The other year in the alternating pattern will be the year that we dump in all kinds of new features and functions. So with Asterisk 10, we decided we were going to completely gut the system. We removed the old telephony-grade media engine that was designed only for 8 kilohertz audio, and we pitched it out. And we replaced it with an all-new media engine designed for HD audio. So almost every sampling rate, almost every codec you can imagine. We put in ConfBridge, which is a new conference bridging application which really replaces MeetMe. MeetMe is still in there, but it's been deprecated at this point. And ConfBridge actually is HD capable. And when a call arrives that is HD enabled, something that's using, for example, G722, that call will get HD media. And if another call comes in to the conference bridge, which is of a lower sampling rate, for example, an 8 kilohertz call coming in off the PSTN, the entire conference doesn't get degraded. It stays HD, and only those participants which are low-res participants receive the low-res media stream. We put in a brand new T38 gateway engine. Fax has always been something of an Achilles heel to Asterisk. Over the last several iterations, we've made consistent improvements in the way it handles faxes, and last year we put in T38 media gatewaying. So you actually are able to bridge a call that comes in off of T38 directly over and deliver it to an analog fax device, or vice versa. We also put in text message routing, and I'll come to why we did that here in just a moment. So we put a whole lot of new releases, or new functionality, into Asterisk 10. So what does that mean? It means that Asterisk 11, frankly, is going to look kind of boring, because it is all of these features which have had 1 year to bake. We've spent the last year basically dealing with thousands and thousands and thousands of requests for bug fixes, tweaks, improvements, enhancements to the existing functionality that's in there. And all of that will show up in Asterisk 11 as the sort of golden version, which we will once again support for 5 years full support plus 1 additional year of security support. So certified Asterisk. Now, I think Ule may have poked a little fun at me earlier today about this, but what has happened is that there is a certain requirement that comes along when you're trying to produce something that meets the needs of the people that need absolute stability, but also is able to flow in certain limited new features which are required in certain use cases. We have commercial customers that come to us and depend on us to provide them with a very stable solution. And this is, some of these are open source customers that buy support, and some of these are licensees who license it outside of the open source license product. So in that case, we needed a version that we were actually able to make small tweaks to based on their requirements. we also needed a version that didn't roll forward with a point release every month because they couldn't keep up with it. So what we decided to do was to maintain our existing release policy so the canonical or official or primary version of Asterisk still releases once a year. Once that's released, no changes go into it, and we will do a point release of that every month. That is exactly the same as it ever was, but now we've decided to actually add in an additional branch, which is Certified Asterisk. A little bit on the release policy again. Mainline releases never get any new features. Mainline features also include every Asterisk module ever written that at least still operates with the current version of the code. That, by the way, is not necessarily something that carrier class customers want. As much as we might like some of the more clever hacks that have been added onto Asterisk over the years, large-scale customers who are depending on it don't necessarily want code in there that Digium isn't able to support and that, frankly, the original developer has long since walked away from. It's things that are largely unmaintained. So we needed to deal with that. So, and again, our release policy being once a month for point releases was great because it fixes bugs quickly. And in some ways, it's bad for commercial customers because they've got no way of keeping up with that. So after talking to them, they said, we would prefer something that comes out on a quarterly basis rather than a monthly basis. And that's where Certified Asterisk comes in. It is based on the most recent long-term support release, so 1.8 in this case. It removes a lot of the unsupported or unsupportable modules, the cruft. It undergoes an additional testing process beyond the standard release testing process. So it actually is certified for use in situations that aren't necessarily your typical small PBX and are more like large call centers and major carrier solutions. It includes a very limited number of high-value new features that we've been either requested or demanded from various customers. And it is, again, as I say, updated on a quarterly basis. So that is Certified Asterisk, and that is now available as well. It's been out for the last, I would say, 9 months. We do, again, I think we're on the 3rd quarterly release. So we're, oh, it's worth mentioning that this is, by the way, totally GPL v2 open source free software. No change in license whatsoever. So it's the same license as you're used to getting with Asterisk. It just comes with a little bit extra. So the Cert 1 release, based on 1.8, includes just a couple of new features. We backported the SIP messaging feature that I mentioned was in Asterisk 10. And we added a couple of additional APIs to our voicemail, our queues, and our parking applications. And why did we do this? Well, support for our SLA customers. That's not shared line appearance in this case. SLA is support level agreement. And also support for Digium's new phones. If you were here earlier when David and I did our dog and pony show, you saw the new phones, which have some pretty awesome new features. We really wanted to get those features wrapped into Asterisk 10 and Asterisk 1.8 natively, but simply couldn't do it. You can't make changes to a released branch. So our best option was to incorporate them into the certified branch that we'd already committed to doing. So again, the phones, we've got 3 different models. They provide super simple provisioning, discovery, uses the SIP channel so you don't have to open up extra ports, and a bunch of integrated applications. And if you'd like to see the phones, we've got them back in the booth behind you. So on to Asterisk 11 now. So one of the good things is that all of the changes that forced us to do Certified Asterisk, of course, get wrapped into Asterisk 11. Asterisk 11 is, again, an LTS release. It comes with a full 5 years of support plus an additional year of security support, which will take you through to 2018, by the way. Again, stability, not new features. So I've got 2 things to talk about in terms of new features. The things that we do with an LTS is we take the opportunity to fix architecture level bugs. So some of the hard, not necessarily very glamorous coding that needs to be done in order to make Asterisk extremely stable and extremely reliable and extremely scalable. Performance enhancements go into that. Again, these are not things that you're going to see as a feature, but it's going to mean that given the same CPU, you might be able to do half again as many calls on it. Significant refactoring of existing features and functions. So we don't change the interfaces, we don't change the way It appears to the outside world, but sometimes we go in and we actually fix a lot of the internals, again, for either performance reasons or simply because we did something that we didn't like. There was something that seemed hackish to us once we had an opportunity to cook it for a year, and so we've gone in and made some changes along those lines. So new in Asterisk 11, first I'll mention Chan Motif, which is the Jingle and Google Talk calling function all wrapped into one. Formerly we've had a couple of channels, one called Chan Google and one called Chan Jingle. Google's original plan for their voice and video service was to build that on top of stock Jingle. But then the Jingle spec came out and they decided, nah, it doesn't do quite enough, so they made their own version, which goes against what Ule was saying in his presentation. So they have since come back, worked with the standards committee to enhance the Jingle specification. And Jingle, for anybody who doesn't know, is sort of like SIP for XMPP. It's the process or the protocol used to set up a call using XMPP messages, XML messages being passed back and forth, rather than SIP messages, but the same basic idea. So we've combined those two channel drivers into one. We've completely refactored Res XMPP so that we have a new XMPP engine, which is much cleaner, much better, much more standards compliant. All of the ZIFs, which are the equivalents of RFCs for XMPP. It's more stable, it's less difficult for us to keep up with Google, and Google has committed to staying with the standard rather than going off on its own. So as long as they do that, as long as Google is a good partner, we'll be a good partner and we'll keep this up to spec with the standards as well. So you should now be able to call using Google and connect up with anybody who has a Google account. So if you've played with Google's voice and video chat, this ties directly into that. The other thing that we've added that's kind of exciting is WebSocket support for SIP. So SIP uses a number of different transports, and up till now we've had first UDP, and then later we added in TCP, and then later after that we've added in TLS for secure SIP calling, and now we've added in WS and WSS, which is WebSockets and WebSockets Secure. This is a new protocol that's used by web applications primarily for bidirectional communications between a browser and some external device, a WebSocket server. In some cases, it's even been recommended or suggested as a possible replacement or enhancement for HTTP itself. I don't know whether that's going to come to happen, but it is definitely being used for a fair number of call scenarios that go along with another new standard called WebRTC, and I'll hit on that in a moment. So this has been integrated directly into Asterisk through the onboard HTTP server. Since we've had an HTTP server in there for a number of generations at this point, this has been bolted into that, so you don't have to run an external proxy or an external solution in order to make WebSocket connections for SIP. They go straight into Asterisk using this web server. So why WebSockets? Well, WebRTC is a new paradigm for communications. So effectively, it's adding real-time communication directly into web browsers. Now, you may go, well, what's so big about that? I mean, you've seen things like, again, Google Voice and Video calling. Skype has web integration. Anybody who's ever used, for example, and I'm drawing a total blank. There are any number of other examples out there. Yes, thank you. Have been able to make phone calls over from a web browser, but in every case that required a plug-in, something like Flash, or some sort of proprietary Java application, and there's Ule in the back going, no Flash. Well, the world has kind of gotten tired of having to add in plug-ins, and there's a lot of people out there who won't do that. There's a lot of people out there who can't do that because they don't control the browser. The browser is something that's provided by IT. And so there is a great case for adding in the ability to do multimedia communications directly from a browser, because you know what? That is the most ubiquitous piece of software on earth. I bet everybody in this room has a browser in their pocket at the moment. So once this happens, once the browser developers actually implement this, and it's very, very close now. It's available in a number of different browsers. You can get sort of a preview version of it in Google's Chrome You can get an even better preview version in Google's Chrome Canary. There's versions of Firefox that now support it. And the expectation is that in 2013 it will become mainstream. It will roll into all of the browsers with the probable exception of Apple. So keep an eye out for it. In order to make this work in Asterisk, well, we needed to make some changes. I guess I'll finish up here with the explanation that there are certain things that had to be done at the browser level in order to make this work. People have added the capability for doing NAT traversal, something that never made any difference to web applications, but makes all the difference in the world, as most of you are aware, for a real-time communications application. Also added in support specifically for various codecs, and they've actually defined 2 that are required and a bunch of others that are potential options. It's open to add in. So the codecs are G711 and Opus. It's defined a set of JavaScript APIs for accessing the camera and microphone and on your computer and tying that directly into the browser, and then for establishing connections using what's called peer connection. And this leaves the signaling protocol open to the application developer. And there's already people out there who've come up with interesting, clever applications based on this. I've even got on my laptop over there a demo of somebody who's built an entire SIP stack in JavaScript, which is a terrifying idea, but it does seem to work so far. I think there are more clever implementations to come, but we've actually added in all the support that's needed within Asterisk now to make WebSocket connections from SIP and actually use that that browser-based implementation, that JavaScript SIP stack, to set up a call from a browser to another browser, from a browser to a phone. Now, this is all coming again in Asterisk 11. Right now we'll have the SIP capabilities built in. There have been several people who've been talking about the idea of extending the same thing to the XMPP jingle protocol. I don't know whether that's going to happen or not. But there are plenty of other possibilities. Because the signaling is left open, we have the opportunity to redefine how communications works. SIP is great for some things. SIP is awesome for some things, Ule. But there are certain cases where a lighter weight protocol may be the right thing to do. And there are certain applications where you don't need to have all of the firepower of SIP, the massive, awesome firepower of SIP at your disposal. So we're hoping that people will come up with new and clever and interesting ideas that can be bound into Asterisk as well. Some of the other things that we've changed in Asterisk in order to support WebRTC, we have gone through and refactored our RTP and SRTP stack so that we are using the same capabilities and constructs as the folks from Google when necessary. We've added in support for ICE, which is Interactive Connectivity Establishment, which is basically a protocol for figuring out the best way for 2 devices located possibly behind the same NAT device or possibly completely separate parts of the universe, getting them to talk to each other directly rather than having to proxy media through another peer. And then we've made improvements or changes to our SDP so that we're actually able to parse some of the more interesting SDP that comes from Google so far. So we've put a lot of effort into this. This is really revolutionary stuff. This is something that's going to redefine how communications works coming in the next couple of years. So instantly VoIP enabling every browser in the world is an awesome thing. Trying to get people to use VoIP is always difficult. Oh, I've got to go download this software and I've got to install it. And then I'm still stuck paying Skype for the minutes when I'm connecting up to this, and I can only talk to Skype if Skype says I can talk to Skype. And trust me, I know that Skype doesn't necessarily always let everybody talk to them the way you want to. So this is something that's totally disintermediating. It's cutting out all the middlemen for the first time ever in a way that ordinary developers can get a hold of and deal with. Moving it into JavaScript makes it so much easier for web developers, and there's 1 million+ web developers in the world, to do things that right now require telephony engineers, and there's like a few 100,000 of those. There's no new software to install. Interoperates with existing VoIP technology because it uses RTP, or at least it uses SRTP. Well, Ule is shaking his head, but you can make it interoperate. It does require, through Asterisk, as a matter of fact, you can make it work, so that is at least something, and we're hoping to drive the standards guys to really make that a little bit better. So of course, working through SIP, And again, it's open standards, so anyone can play. This isn't something that belongs to Microsoft the way Skype does. This isn't something that belongs to a phone company. This is something that belongs to the whole world. So if you don't like my implementation, that's okay. You can go use somebody else's implementation. And it really empowers true unified communications. So things like voice and video calling are really just the first step. I mean, there's all kinds of other things that you can do. Screen sharing is another thing that's on the roadmap that will be incorporated in. Conferencing. So there's a long list of things that people have talked about doing for years and have done in islands, have done in separate, discrete applications that don't talk to each other, or that talk to each other only when you sort of Frankenstein them together into this sort of horrible kludge. By moving everything into the browser, we're all of a sudden going to have the ability for the same session that we're using for voice to be used for controlling, screen display. You have a call center. Somebody goes to your website, they're looking for tech support, they click on the Talk to Me Now button. Immediately they're patched through to an agent. The agent's desktop is running a browser. The browser displays what it is that they were working on or what it is that they need tech support for. So you don't have to go, so what are you calling about? Can you describe your application? They've already provided all that information in web forms. So easy there. The application, or the person who receives the call inside the call center receives it in their browser. They answer and say, hi, how can I help you? And you're looking right at them. You get a much more personal connection. And they say, yes, okay, I need help with my, my new Digium phone. Oh, great, let me show you how this works. And you click a button, and you're looking at the GUI from the customer. Oh, I see you don't have this particular option enabled. Go ahead and click that button right there. Yep, that got it. Okay, hit save. All right, that should have you ready to go. That's customer service, and that's unified communications. And that is one of 10,000 use cases for WebRTC. So if we had to pick just one new feature to incorporate into Asterisk 11, that was it. So we're really excited to be bringing this to you. We will be rolling on into Asterisk 12 with what we hope will be some even more disruptive changes to the world of communications. Asterisk is 13 years old. It is not a new kid on the block. There are some architectural issues that probably need addressing. Asterisk has a very large installed base of users, and those people really need to be able to continue to rely on Asterisk. So what we need to do in Asterisk 12 is walk a very fine line between being innovative and disrupting our own user base to the point where they're not happy with us. So we would really like to have everybody who has a vested interest in Asterisk help us define the requirements for the next release. So if you have the ability to join us, please join us at the DevCon. This is the day before AstriCon in October in Atlanta at the same conference center or the same hotel that we're using for AstriCon. And if you're interested in attending the DevCon, please come talk to me and I'll get you everything you need to know so you can get there. So thank you very much, and at this point I guess I'll open it up to questions.
You can use that one. Oh, and also that SimBook promotion.
Oh.
Do you want to...
I do have one other thing to do. I would like to, first of all, say that I should have said this in my last talk, so I apologize. We are actually partnering with a company called SimBook. They are working on a directory application, or they've actually produced a directory solution, which makes it dirt simple for anyone to deliver directory information to VoIP phones. And they honored us by coming to us first and saying, hey, we would like to work with you. If you have any interest, we're giving away a bunch of licenses, and we've got literature on it, I believe. Come to our booth or catch me right afterwards and give me a business card, because we've got a drawing for a bunch of licenses. So at this point, now I'll open it up to questions.
Okay, any questions for Steve then? Oh, no, that was somebody stretching. Any questions for Steve?
It is the last one. It is the last
You got away with that very well, didn't you? In that case, let's just say thanks to Steve again. Thank you.